Hello, thank you so much for joining our no code conversation today. I'm joined here today with Tom Rich, senior designer at the R&D department, and Emily Green, director of marketing for dealer marketing at TrueCar. And today we are going to be talking about how TrueCar revamped their website and refueled for business growth using Webflow. Super excited about it. I hope that you guys are as well. But before we get too deep, I really want this to be a meaningful time. I hope that this is a time for us to learn together. So yeah, it's like, why are we here? And why should I care? Why should I listen to these guys talk? It really is, I think it's our heart that you walk away with that this is, you can learn from this, and then that literally the three of us in this panel today will be learning something together. And that's something I'm super excited about. Specifically, we are going to be walking through what it looks like to work with an enterprise client, utilizing collaborative design with an enterprise client, and how good design means good business. But before we get into that, we need to know who we're talking with. My name is Stewart Ramsey. Like I said, I'm the owner and president of the R&D department, a full service creative agency. We're based in Southern California, and we utilize objective strategy to develop human-centered design. So that's kind of our shtick and what we feel like we're good at. And I also have on the line Tom Rich. Tom.
Hey, everyone. Great to be here. Tom Rich. Yeah, I'm a senior creative director at the R&D department. I help with a lot of the visual and creative direction for many different products through our team. Yeah, and I'm really excited to be talking to you today. And I would like to hand it off to the main event, our guest of honor, Emily. Emily, tell us about yourself.
Hey, everyone. Thank you so much for having me. I don't know if I'm the main event, but I'm really glad to be here. I'm Emily Green. I'm the director of dealer marketing over at TrueCar. So on the dealer side at TrueCar, I'll talk a little bit more about what we do, but just know we're working with a B2B audience. And so we worked with R&D department for all things dealer marketing.
Thanks, guys. So topic number one, what does it look like to interface with an enterprise client? We're a boutique agency, so winning an enterprise client is a big deal for us. And then I also think it's a big deal for any agency of any size, but kind of just from the offset, working with an enterprise client is 100% just like working with any other client, regardless of size, but it's also 100% not. And we'll kind of unpack that today, but regardless of the size of the client, at the R&D department, our first step is really just, it's a big bag of empathy and a healthy dose of listening, and really trying to clearly understand literally the person that's sitting across the table from us, and putting ourselves in their shoes to try to understand what their pain points are. And we think in doing that, we actually start to address the pain points for the end user, because we think, especially in this case with TrueCar, they really did know who their customer was. We were just going to come alongside and try to provide a clear solution. For those of you who don't have context for TrueCar, it is a pretty massive company. Their mission is to try to make the car buying experience an uplifting experience for you and me, for people who are looking to buy cars. They also happen to have like a $500 million market cap, but so that's a very altruistic mission, and then also has a significant business impact as well. But I really want Emily to like kind of set the stage for us. Maybe tell us a little bit more about TrueCar as a company, and then a few follow-up questions like why did we start talking to each other, the R&D department and TrueCar? And maybe give us the state of the union of where TrueCar was at when we first started talking.
Awesome. Let me just take it back to sort of what is TrueCar, right? So TrueCar.com is a site where consumers can go, they can search for their dream car or a car that works within their budget. They can get their pricing, they can do their trade-in, they can build really all the elements of their deal online. And then they connect with a dealer. And hopefully from there, usually from there, they get their car, everyone drives away happy. For us on my team, the dealer marketing team, we manage all of the B2B marketing to our nationwide network of dealers and prospective dealers that power that experience for consumers. So, like Stu said, TrueCar, really big company, huge market cap. Our consumer audience, we sold 1 million cars in a year. So we've got a really big audience. Our dealer audience is much smaller. So my team is actually a small but mighty team of 2 within the larger marketing team. And when we set out to kind of revamp our website and kind of tell our story, we thought that an agency that's kind of a small agency and could understand us was really a good fit.
Can you explain the workload that you guys had before we started? Like, what were the issues? You had this old site, and we're like trying to uncover what the problem was that you guys were confronted with. So maybe if you could kind of set the stage for us of what was going on in the back end with your site.
So back when we, I think, first connected, TrueCar was getting ready to go through a rebrand, which was super exciting. This was back in 2019, and we were updating our look and feel. We were updating our logo, but we were also fully updating our consumer experience. And along with that, we were changing and updating the tools and solutions that we had for our dealers. So when we first came across R&D department, we had on the marketing side for our dealers, a single landing page that was really not doing justice to what the future of TrueCar was going to be. And on top of that, it was completely hard-coded. So any change we needed to make, any little banner, even just a word, needed to use tech resources, needed to get into a sprint. And it was just really difficult to make changes, make updates to the site.
I feel like I hear you saying, that really to move forward, it was just such a drain, whether it was like maybe personally at sometimes, and then obviously professionally interfacing with other parts of the organization to just make a slight change on the website. Tom, you've designed for a lot of different enterprise level clients. What was your first impression of like the problem that they were up against that TrueCar was trying to solve?
First off, TrueCar is a large organization. There's a lot of different stakeholders. Also, at the same time, they were going through a rebrand. So there's a lot of different elements moving through this whole process. But the big thing that they were up against was they were losing leads. So we had to help them in a scalable way that we could tee them up for success.
As Tom and I were talking through the correct solution here, we went back to Emily and we had a lot of conversations about what's the right platform. What are we going to launch this thing on and kind of why? And that's kind of when Webflow came into the picture. Emily, is there any insight that you have or do you remember having about like there was some internal pressure on like we kind of felt like we had to prove Webflow versus maybe more traditional and more expected, like a WordPress or an equivalent level site. Do you remember those conversations?
Oh boy, I sure do. I think there were 2 things that we had to achieve with this like new solution. One, it had to be able to be something that we could self-serve and update on our own without using tech resources. And 2, it definitely had to pass our security protocols. There were certainly a lot of meetings with our security team, our resourcing team, and then all of our leadership stakeholders to really prove that, Webflow can do all these things that maybe this other big company, WordPress, can do. I just have to give a shout out to Brando on the Webflow team. They did just so amazing on all of the meetings, passing some security tests, and making sure that this was a platform that could capture all the leads that we're trying to generate, house content, and really be a resource for telling the story of what TrueCar can do for all of our dealers.
I remember a lot of those security conversations and procurement. Like those are some insights into like what does it look like to work with this enterprise level client that, is a little bit different than a traditional client? Tom, you were pretty psyched on Webflow from the beginning. I mean, from the design side, why do you think that was the best platform to launch or start to solve their problem, TrueCar's problem of like obviously needing to like have a facelift, but then also having like a very powerful and interactive CMS for the dealer marketing team, because they're tight and they're pulling on different people into their pools to get stuff done, but they really needed to own it all. Yeah, why were you hyped on Webflow?
So Webflow to me was the perfect solution for TrueCar. We had used it with other product teams and companies, but at the time, enterprise was not fully developed for Webflow. They were just rolling that out, so it was an early stage for them. But I saw definitely for the solutions that they need, that we met with the team about being able to scale the product. They were using different tools for building out landing pages and testing. I really saw and could envision the whole solution working in Webflow for them. And so I was a big advocate for it the whole time.
Totally. You sold me on it. I was like, oh gosh, this is too perfect. Especially to really handle what they were getting after. Like, we need to market to this very specific, this dealer group or these dealers, and we need to be able to turn and create new content as quickly as possible and have it look like quality agency level work. Great. So hopefully we've got a little insight into what it looks like working with enterprise, and then also how Webflow kind of fits into that conversation. But I think I would really like to get into the meat of the conversation, which is kind of this idea of collaborative design. And then I think even more specifically, I just feel like we had a special team with Emily and with us, just a huge sense of humility. But before we dive into that, Tom, the first question is to you about collaborative design. Tell us, as a designer, what gets you out of bed in the morning? Why are you so passionate about design in the first place? And then I want to kind of get into how we design for TrueCar.
Yeah, definitely, Stu. So what gets me out of bed in the morning? Definitely breakfast. Breakfast gets me up. Now, what makes me excited about design every day? I think it's this idea of designing and simplifying a very complicated world. And I think we can all relate to that. It's something that crossed my mind. It's just when you're driving down the street and we have street lights and street signs, and there's design systems all around us, and they're actually, they haven't been there forever, but it's really, it gives this nice calming sensation and feeling of seeing this cohesive design everywhere. Like here in Costa Mesa, all the street signs are blue with white writing, and it gives you the sense of knowing where you are, versus in LA, you'll see them white with blue writing, and just the typography, how it's chosen, all of that. I love just this idea of helping simplify the world. And I don't want to sound cheesy, but I read this Confucius quote the other day, and he said, the world's actually very simple. We just insist in complicating it. So that's where I love that's what really makes me passionate about design.
So what was your initial vision for TrueCar? Like, how did we start to come around the right solution? We kind of easily identified the problem, and then Webflow became a part of the conversation for the solution. But really, the rubber meets the road when we were talking about applying design and using Webflow to do that. But take us in. What was your initial vision here?
Our initial vision was to help really elevate the current brand. So at the time, TrueCar had the current brand that they were running with. So we were trying to help elevate that design. And that was about the first month or so of the process. Before we heard wind though of a rebrand going through, but we were sold on completing this vision. So we created several comps and visions around the current branding, which we thought really helped elevate the brand from where it was at, the target audience. So that's what we were trying to help portray in these art direction pieces that we presented to the team. some of the things that came out of that were the data visualization. We were trying to show a lot of floating imagery, overlapping, kind of three-dimensional, trying to help elevate the brand. And then once we started pushing into the actual rebrand, we were asked again to revisit all the designs. It was actually a breath of fresh air for the team and I, because we gotta really explore what we wanted to help push for. So that kind of came into this visual of three-dimensional cars we were seeing rotating, showing the product suite in a different light, really helping show the future of this product. But with the rebrand came through, the team had a lot of different directions that we worked through. We landed more into the illustrative composition. So we really thought that was a great thing to lean into. So the final direction looked like this. And this is where we landed. We were very excited. And then we also helped elevate the product by moving into this navigational piece of putting all of the product suite into one drop-down menu. This was something that was not easily found on the old site, hard to navigate. We were losing a lot of leads. We helped elevate the brand in a lot of different ways here.
Yeah, Tom. And then can you just, you've already hinted at it, but why is Webflow powerful for when you're designing or even iterating like this? Why is it the right tool?
Yeah, that's a great question, Stu. The Webflow, it was able to scale not just as we built it out, but able to scale along with the team. I think that was the biggest goal, was to help set this team up for success for later, so that they could run internal tests and spin up landing pages and keep updating the blog, adding and removing products. We also introduced tracking on each form on the individual product pages, so that when a lead came in, they could actually track what product it was that they're interested, or the page that they were on when they submitted the form.
That's awesome. Emily, from your perspective, tell me about the design process on your end. I just am still kind of flabbergasted. I think you have one of the hardest marketing jobs in the world, where there's this requirement to get good design and good tech built. But before you go to sell it to the world, you have to sell it up and down and across the organization. You have to there's so many stakeholders relative to where you sit, that you kind of have to pre-sell it before you're even allowed to take it public. Talk to me about all of that. Do you feel like everybody was heard during the design process? Was Webflow helpful in that?
Yeah. So how did we manage all of these design changes and kind of launching a whole new website with all of our different internal stakeholders, right?
Yeah.
It's a process. And I just have to acknowledge what Tom just showed. He designed 2 separate sites that both went live, right? We went live with that fresh design, but our old branding for a while. And then we flipped the switch on the rebrand and made some changes and updates there. So just super impressive, and doubles all of those approvals and reviews and everything that we needed to do, right? But I think that what was really interesting was, because we were going through a rebrand, we were kind of ahead of things sometimes. So Tom was designing with these amazing visions and all of these great ideas. And then we would take it back to leadership, take it back to the agency handling our rebrand. And then they would almost use some of that to start to hone in on what their story was too, and what their look and feel was. So it was a little bit of chicken or the egg with some of the design. But I think that what really helped us was just having such great partners with you all to be able to go through those reviews. We had leadership reviews. We have all different stakeholders. Our product team is a stakeholder to make sure that the look and feel of the marketing site matches the look and feel of, the actual product site. We have our dealer leadership team. We have executive leadership, and y'all were just wonderful. It definitely took a lot of meetings, but I think because you were so buttoned up and so clear in your vision, and because Webflow could do all the things we needed, right? Webflow could give us multiple landing pages. We can house a blog with our content. We can track all of our leads and immediately integrate and pass them through to Salesforce. All of that just helped us tell our story and get those check marks that we needed.
I think that was a perfect segue, Emily. Like, let's talk about how good design can lead to good business. And I think this might be a funny thing to measure, but on my end, one of the KPIs that I'm like most concerned about is internal stoke. Like, if you are excited and if your colleagues, employees are stoked on the design and the execution of it and how it works, that is a huge win for me. So I think my first question was like, what were you guys stoked? Did you like it? And what was the level of stoke?
I mean, I would say the level of stoke was through the roof. I think that the most stoked, truly. I know I just kind of got ahead and talked about all of the different ways that this really solved some issues for us, but also just catapulted us forward in terms of how we talk about our products, how we can present all of our solutions, how we can be there for our dealers. I mean, it's so exciting. And yeah.
I love what you just said, being there for your dealers. I mean, obviously COVID is happening. We're virtual because of it right now, but do you think you would have been able to leverage in any way your previous site in the way that I just saw a ton of cool blog content, because the whole system was kind of forced virtual, where you guys were producing amazing videos and like doing that on a very consistent basis. That was all housed on this new site. Yeah. Do you think you guys would have been able to pivot as well without a Webflow site?
Look, COVID changed the way that we all work. It changed the way that people buy cars. It changed the way our dealers sell cars. And something that we did really quickly that I'm super proud of is we stood up an entire COVID resource center on our blog. We have an incredible team of content creators and industry leaders in-house who are coming up with best practices, producing infographics, hosting webinars of all of these things that are showing our dealers how they can continue to operate in this increasingly digital world. And we were able to stand that up with Webflow. We had like a banner on the homepage. We were sending emails out to push dealers into that content and just show them that we were there for them and we were with them. And I think all of that, the fact that we were able to handle it so quickly and without, dev resources, was clutch in making sure that we were supporting our dealers through everything.
Totally. I love that. I mean, it really does feel like we kind of came together and we're like, hey, how do we solve this problem? And like really with Webflow, I felt like we were able to do that, like provide you with great design, a new facelift for your site, but also had this great functionality in terms of capturing and tracking the leads that you needed to, and also being able to generate new content without having to load down other teams who are also already busy, right? Do you think that there's more to be done? Like, is this the end, or is like, what is next for TrueCar or the dealer site, or however you want to answer that?
It's never going to be the end. No, of course not. I think that as the industry is changing, TrueCar is really on the forefront of what it means to own a car and buy a car online, how you discover it, how you finalize that deal, how you build a deal that works for you. And so I think we are continuing to innovate and continuing to move forward. And as that happens, every time our consumers have a new experience, a better experience, a more technologically advanced experience, we need our dealers to be on board because they're the backbone of what we do. And so our website, our information, every place you can go to learn about what you can get out of TrueCar as a dealer, we've got to keep expanding that. So I think we've got some new stories to tell, and I'm really excited about it.
Love that. I can't wait. Tom, what do you think? Was this a win?
Yeah, I think it was amazing to see the brand elevate to the level that it did. It was really so satisfying to see the team be able to be self-sufficient in the way that we envisioned them, because we saw them jumping through hurdles and switching different platforms. So I was really happy that we could make Webflow their solution for this. I thought it was just all in all a great win.
In summary, we talked about working with enterprise clients, utilizing collaborative design, and how good design is good for business. But I also just wanted to kind of call out that it seems like to me, and this is a hypothesis, I don't know if it's true, and this is what I think I hope to learn from this discussion is like, is there a mutually beneficial or symbiotic relationship between like a small agency and an enterprise level client, where an enterprise level client is big, but there's still these tight teams like running those big ships. And then a smaller agency can come along and be really listen and solve very specific problems. And yeah, I think that I'm not looking for an answer, but I hope to continue to learn the answer to that question, or I hope that our talk kind of provided that for you. On the way out the door, if you are shopping for a car, use TrueCar. If you want to talk to either Tom and I at the R&D department, our door is open, our inboxes are open. And then I think, obviously, I hope this goes without saying, but that if you are going to design and build and want to design and build the future, I'm just such a fanboy of Webflow. Super honored to have had Emily and Tom here on this panel and to kind of dive into this stuff. And none of that would be possible without the platform. And to be honest, the people behind it. I felt completely supported as we were bringing TrueCar on by everybody at Webflow. So thank you again for the opportunity to talk and for having us. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.